All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome to YouGov's presentation for today. My name is Brian Ritz. I am a senior marketing manager here at YouGov, and I will be your host today. We're going to be talking about AI search and the role of artificial intelligence in the search journey for internet users today. So I'm joined today by two brilliant colleagues, Jade Vasquez and Cliff Mark. Jade works with a lot of our clients in tech and gaming. Cliff is on our editorial team, and he did a lot of the research to put this presentation together, and they both have perspectives that are going to shape our presentation. They'll present a lot of data, but enough from me. I don't know, if Jade, if you want to say a thought or two, and then Cliff after.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. I'm Jade, and I'm a research consultant on the client services team here at YouGov. And like Brian said, I primarily work with technology, gaming, and esports clients, helping them use our syndicated products. And on the topic of AI, I am an AI user myself, and I'd say I use it almost every day for summaries and troubleshooting and other tasks. I'll pass it over to Cliff.
Hi, everyone. Yeah, I'm Cliff. I'm on the editorial team, and I spend a lot of time putting together these PowerPoints, these webinars. So we had some pretty interesting findings, and I'm excited to talk about them.
Cool. What's your stance on AI? That's a pretty vague question.
No, please stop. No, I for one welcome our robot overlords.
All right, that was succinct. I'm on one of those, like I wouldn't say I'm skeptical. Like, I've started using it, but I would say I'm not like the earliest adopter. So I think it sounds like Jade is. So we've got a good combination of that here. So just a quick overview of what to expect today for all of the listeners and/or viewers out there. You can be a listener and a viewer at the same time. First thing is we're going to go through just the general search landscape. Then we're going to talk about AI assistants and how they have entered the search journey. Following that, trust. That's something that anyone who has been around the AI discourse has been probably aware that there's a gap between how much people trust certain outputs. And then we will be taking questions. We did a webinar in the UK earlier today. They received a lot of questions. We will be judged by how many questions you ask. So if you like us, if you think we're nice people, please ask questions, because they're gonna take us to the robot overlords afterward and evaluate us on that data. Not really, but we want to make sure that we are answering what you have. So enough from me. I'll start with our first topic, which is the online search landscape, and I'll pass it over to Cliff, since you kind of wrote the survey and set everything up. What are we how do we set things up here?
Yeah, so just to get a basic landscape of what people are doing on search before we got into the distinction between different search channels, we asked all of our respondents how often they look for information online. And almost everybody does sometimes. So we have 5% who say they never look for information online. We don't know how they got our surveys, but there's 5% who didn't. There's some who don't know. Most people do it at least sometimes, and we've got 54% who do it every day, and 26% who do it 6 or more times a day. They're asking the internet for information. And people who are high income earners, meaning they earn 200% of the median income or more, they're even more likely to be searching 6 or more times a day. I guess, they got to check on their portfolio. So that is the broad landscape of how much people are searching. And we're going to get next into the different channels of search. But before we do, I just want to make a note to interpret this sort of entire report, which is that we'll be talking about online searchers. We've established they are in this slide. From now on, instead of general population, we're going to be talking about online searchers, and it's the population of people who search online. But the other point is that you will find yourself wondering, when we contrast channels, search engine or AI assistant, you may ask yourself, well, Google has a built-in AI assistant. They have these Google answers. What about those? And this survey is split between the two interfaces. So it's more like standalone AI assistants, chatbots. We gave examples in the survey: ChatGPT, Perplexity, Claude, versus search engines, Google, Yahoo, etc. And the reason we did it that way is because when we wrote the survey, the AI assistants in Google were not as prominent, and it's not always easy to tell where they're active. So when interpreting this, and you're asking yourself, well, what about AI, Google AI powered answers? That's not the distinction that we're working with. It's really between the two interfaces. So anyway, almost everyone searches. Lots of people do it every day. Over to Jade to tell you where they are searching.
Yeah, so where are people looking for information? We did find that search engines are the dominant search channel, with nearly 9 in 10 online searchers having used a search engine in the past 30 days. And then, although search engines are very dominant, other channels like video platforms, maps, social media, and news websites also play a role in where people are looking for information.
And then just to clarify, the online searchers, that's what you were just talking about, Cliff. That's pretty much anyone who searches, is it weekly?
Even less than that. Anyone who ever searches for information online. So
right.
It's everyone who gave any frequency that wasn't never or don't know.
So good to clarify. And then I know you just kind of presented this information, Jade. So now we're looking at it by generation. What are we seeing here?
Yeah, when we look at the data by generation, we wanted to see whether different age groups search differently. So search engines do lead in every generation, but younger searchers are more likely to use video platforms and online communities. So looking at the data, nearly half of Gen Z and millennials are using video platforms to look for information, and about a third are using online communities. And usage in both of these channels drop off pretty sharply among Gen X and baby boomers. And then another takeaway here is that 37% of millennials use social media to look for answers, which is more than any other generation, including Gen Z.
And you said that you use AI to search for information. So you'd be in that kind of, was like the sixth, seventh, kind of from the top there?
Yes, I do use AI. I also am a search engine power user. So that's usually my go-to first, but for troubleshooting, definitely AI.
Curious people. We're curious people. Anyone here probably on this call I would imagine has used a lot of these. All right, I'll pass it over to Cliff to talk about what people are searching for, which I think is the topic that you already touched on a little bit too.
Yeah, I mean, this was an interesting result to me. So we asked, where do you start your searches based on what you're trying to do? You're asking a specific question, you're troubleshooting, looking for news, et cetera, et cetera. And across the board, search engine is still the #1 place to start, but there's always a strong runner up, and which channel it is depends on the task people are doing. So when people are asking a direct question, they want a direct answer, AI is the runner up. That's where AI performs the best. For troubleshooting, people are hitting YouTube. They're going to video. Obviously, for finding places, they're using maps. So the heat map, you see this sort of dark red bar along the search engine side. That just shows that search engine's the most common starting point. But depending on task, you can use, people use different channels, depending on what they're doing.
So seeing like buying products, people are going to a marketplace. And I'm assuming that is probably more likely than not Amazon, but it could be other marketplaces.
Exactly. Except for entertainment ideas. People are like, I know what I want to do to have fun. I don't need to search for that.
So I guess just on the topic of AI then, knowing that that's what we are here to talk about, it looks like the top reason people might do it is a specific question. Is that, I know that's kind of a vague answer with a specific wording, but is it like basically, I know exactly what I want, AI can help me faster than search?
Yeah, well, I mean, as we'll get into in the other functions of AI, or how people use it, which gives us a little more context to interpret that, it seems like, chatbots are good for giving you an answer to a question, whereas search engines are good for giving you a list of places where you can find an answer. And so if I want to know whether I should put sugar in my stewed chicken, then I would ask ChatGPT, although it will often fail on that particular question, I found.
That's a great idea. Many people put sugar into their stewed chicken. All right, I'll stop that. Jade, What devices are people using to search?
Yeah, so searching is mobile first for younger adults, but computers still matter, particularly with older users. So smartphones are the primary device for online information search among Gen Z, millennials, and Gen X. Baby boomers being the exception here, they're more likely to use a laptop or desktop than a smartphone. And then another interesting takeaway is that 13% of baby boomers reported using a tablet most often when searching.
And then the tablet one we don't have on the slide, but that was another part of the question.
Yes.
So, okay. So, I mean, do you think, I guess we could, what would you do with that information?
Yeah, so I think it's interesting that smartphones are leading for Gen Z, millennials, and Gen X. But I guess it depends. It's interesting to see what searches they would be using for each of those devices.
Which I guess, Cliff, is that something that we could cross-reference against the survey at some point? I know we didn't here, but
I couldn't tell you which searches individuals are doing on their smartphone or on their laptop, but I could tell you if laptop preferers are more likely to use AI or search in this way or that way. So yeah, you could group people by people who prefer what device they prefer and see what their search preferences are. Yeah.
Cool. Okay, well, that's just a quick overview of the search landscape. And then I know we're here to talk about AI, and we talked about search, which I guess we're here to talk about that too, but we're going to dig into the AI a little bit more. And then I'll pass it again, Cliff, to kind of lead us off with kind of how we are grouping this section, how we're segmenting it, and kind of just overall usage frequency.
Right. Yeah. So we want to know, how important is AI search? We take the group of all people who search for information online searchers, and we say, how often do you use AI search? And it's about 54% of people use it at all. 40% of people, of online searchers, say, I never use AI search. And 7% say they don't know. Among those who do, they're split up. 23% are just occasional AI searchers. So they, up to one per week, but not often. They've done it before. 15% are like Jade every day. We're searching up stuff on AI, and 15% are regular users, so several times per week. And if you break down by generation, you'll find that Gen Z and millennials, there are about as many users as each other, but there are more millennial regular and frequent users. So they're the ones searching the most. And it drops off a little when you get to baby boomers. I guess they haven't installed it on the tablets yet.
And what would you say is, like, if you had to speculate, the Gen Z versus millennial difference? Jade or Cliff?
I think a lot of this online stuff, power user stuff, I think that a lot more millennials are into the working world and online a lot, so their search frequency just may be higher. So this is like a speculation, right? And we know from the first slide that it's a lot of people who are in higher income brackets who are doing a lot of online search, information search, and it may be that Gen Z just hasn't reached that bracket yet, right? So they're not constantly online earning money.
Makes sense. And then I know that we also ran, so this is the US data that we're focusing on, but we do data for 18 markets. So a big prominent red highlight there at the bottom.
Yeah. Well, I mean, this is one of the most interesting findings in the study for me. And we're going to come back to it in more detail later, because the US is an outlier in many senses when it comes to AI. I mean, world leader in the AI build out, a lot of huge enterprises operating in the US, but Americans themselves are slower than any other market we surveyed to adopt it, at least for search in this case. But we have other data that kind of corroborates that. So 48% of the general population this time use AI assistants to start info searches. And that's less than the other country. Great Britain is close, but if you look at the Asian markets, India, Indonesia, they're all close to 90%, and US lags that. And so, it's not completely transparent why, but it is definitely a stand-up finding.
Jade, is there anything that you see here that maybe I'm kind of putting you on the spot? I didn't thought I was going to ask you this. That you clients maybe are does that seem like something that you're seeing from other places as well?
Yeah, I'm also curious to see what percent, for those who use AI for work in their employment internationally, are encouraged to use AI versus discouraged, just because I know some companies have stricter policies in AI adoption. So that could be another reason for the percentages.
And then, Cliff, just to clarify really quickly, when it says percentage AI searchers, does that mean percentage of online searchers who start with AI or who use AI to search?
If this reflects our main report, this should actually be the one slide where it's the percentage of the general population. So I think the percentage of online searchers will be slightly higher for all markets. So the percent AI searchers means what percent of all Americans ever use AI to start a search. And yeah, it's just under 50.
So it's ever use. It's not every day.
Right.
Every person in Indonesia is off using AI and figuring out how to put sugar in their stew.
No. They might only be doing so once a week.
Okay, or once a month even.
Sure.
Okay, well, that's I don't know. I don't want to editorialize, but that is information for sure. We can determine if that's good or bad information, but it is information. So, Jade, now that we've kind of established that, we're going to go back to the US. So, what are we seeing trending time-wise over the past year?
Yeah, so going back to the US, usage is growing among AI searchers, but we are seeing the biggest increases among those who already use it. So only 12% of AI searchers have reduced their usage, and among all AI searchers, 58% have increased their usage since a year ago. But when we break this down by frequency, 51% of daily AI searchers use AI assistants much more now than they did a year ago, and then this drops to 29% for regular users and 9% among occasional AI users. So the takeaway here is that those who already use it are using it more, and then our slower adopters are slowly adopting.
And then I guess similar groups here, but now we're looking forward about anticipated use.
Yeah, and what stood out here was the clear divide between people who already use AI and those who don't. So about a third of all AI searchers expect to use the tools even more in the next year, and another half will use them about the same. But on the other hand, among those who don't use AI right now, 72% say that they don't expect to start, and only 4% of non-AI searchers say that they'll use it more over the next year.
And then you're I would say a frequent user you've established. Do you anticipate personally to use it more?
Yes, I do.
So sample size 1 confirms the data. And then one more here is kind of what are people using AI searches for?
Yeah, so directly answering questions, summarizing, or verifications are the top 3 reasons. So among AI searchers, 63% say that they use it for directly answering a question, which is our top reason. And then about a quarter of AI searchers use it for troubleshooting, which jumps to nearly 40% among frequent AI searchers. So it seems like it's mostly situations where people want help making sense of the information and not just finding links.
And then I guess it looks like the troubleshooting too.
Mm-hmm.
I guess it's making sense of the situation.
Yes, and resolving problems.
Is there, I guess, anything else that stands out on this slide?
I mean, the planning and recommendations, because I think that's a little more opinion oriented. That being 22%, I feel like is a pretty significant number.
Yeah, and that's something that, if you're thinking about commerce. That's where a lot of people are probably trying to make the business case to do more, or maybe having the business case made for them to do more, and then looking for the stat to then back up that afterward. Cliff, anything on this before we get to the next one?
Yeah, I thought it was interesting how frequent searchers stand out. So it's a little bit like you get a look into how power users, the people who are most familiar with it, are using the tool differently than other users. We don't have all the data up on this slide, but directly answering a question, the percentages are very similar. Frequent AI searchers do all of them more frequently, but where they really stood out are the ones where we marked. So they're using it to fact check information they found out elsewhere. So they might do a Google search and then ask ChatGPT or Claude, like, hey, does this make sense? And also troubleshooting. One of my favorite uses for it is just, I guess the people who use it a lot, or maybe the people who use it a lot are just people who have a lot of trouble with things. But it's sort of a window for occasional users to maybe some of the other uses that people get a lot out of.
My stew tastes weird. What's going on?
Yes.
Cool. And then what is going on here?
Okay, so I guess this question was motivated by what role is AI playing in search? Is it replacing the search engine? Is it a sort of supplementary thing? Do people just use it on particular occasions? And there's a mix. It doesn't look like as yet AI assistants are going to replace Google. Only 16% of people use it as their starting point. And a lot more people use it along with others. So 19% say they use it alongside, kind of at the same time as other search channels. And 32%, which is the biggest chunk, say they'll use it after. So you'll search something on Google and then talk to Claude about it. And then a big chunk also just use it for specific questions, the stew question, for example. So it is getting more integrated in some people's search, but it still looks like it's just part of the overall search team and not something that's going to replace other channels.
Cool. And just a quick clarification. I think you mentioned this up front, but just for people who have joined later on, I think that we had a question from Emily who asked, can we clarify what we mean by AI search? Did you say that's not the AI overviews that show up at the top?
Right. So it's not AI overviews that show up at the top of Google searches. They weren't as prominent when we wrote the survey and not rolled out universally across the markets we were surveying. Also, it's quite difficult to tell outside of specific standalone AI assistants, AI tools like ChatGPT, what's AI or not, since everyone's implementing everywhere. So the way we asked the questions was really about the two interfaces. Are you talking to an AI assistant chatbot, Claude, Perplexity, ChatGPT, we use those as examples, or a search engine? So that's the distinction our respondents are working with, rather than the underlying technology of search.
Well, yeah, and then we had two other questions that were similar. That was like, when you say social media for search, a lot of the social media has AI integrated. Is there a distinction there? No. And then in general, can people distinguish between plain search and like the AI overviews, which
I don't know if I can always. Yeah.
so you can, and you wrote a survey on it, and you're, I would say, an expert, at least relative to maybe the general population. So, again, sample size 1, but that wasn't covered in the survey. Anyway, kind of took us off the path there, but I think it was an important digression, and we'll get back onto the path here. So, Jade, what happens when people are looking for data in AI?
Yeah, so when people use the AI assistants to find information, the generated answer is not always the end of the journey. For 17%, it is, but 22% click through links, 16% compare sources with other apps, and 8% do further research on other topics. And then if we look specifically among daily AI searchers, it's more common to click through the links than to just stop searching after the answer. So people are taking it with a grain of salt and looking at their sources and potentially doing more research.
And I guess what would you say for your usage of it? And I guess maybe it depends on reasoning for using it.
Absolutely clicking the links and doing more research for myself.
So I think that we'll have one more here before we get to the next thing, but it does transition into the trust gap. But I can before we get to that, we'll just do a quick profile of the frequent AI searchers.
Yeah, so these are people who use AI search every day, the power users. There are a few demographic differences and tendencies. They're more likely just barely to be men than general population. The more people use it, the more likely they're to click through to other links. So it's not like people are going off all other parts of the internet just to use ChatGPT. It's a pathway to the rest of the internet. They're more likely to verify sources, and they should, because they know how often there can be hallucinations. Again, millennials are the group that searches the most frequently. If you're working full time, you're more likely to be always on AI, and you're more likely to use it more. So one of the big lessons is the more people use AI, the more people use AI. And this group makes up 15% of Americans.
Yeah, I love the jean jacket. I love to smile and hold my credit card in one hand. Okay, well, getting to the trust gap, which is kind of what we were talking about a little bit. And I think we'll start with something that was similar to what you talked about earlier with kind of America versus the world. And I think we got a question about kind of what hypotheses, which I would open up to both you, Cliff, and Jade. But Cliff, first, what are kind of the main things here?
Yeah, so we'll go through a lot of these stats in more detail in the coming slides. But what we noticed is when we noticed that adoption was low for the US, we went back and checked the other stats about how positive people are towards AI. So America has the lowest adoption of any country. It has the lowest trust, meaning when we say which channels do you trust for information, the fewest number of Americans say they trust AI search. We'll get to a variable where we asked, what would make you trust it more? What if there were verified links? What if AI showed its work and what it's unsure about? And one of the answer options is nothing. Nothing would make me trust these things more. And Americans are more likely to pick that than consumers in any other country. And another variable that's coming up is about customized answers and personalization. So one of the features is AI assistants can remember your chats and give you personalized answers. And Americans are most likely to say, I'm not comfortable with that. Whereas other countries are more likely to say, I'm comfortable, or I'm comfortable if I have control, but the overall negative answer, more Americans give that than other countries. So there is something going on about like maybe how this technology was received here or was sold in the US that isn't the same everywhere.
And I think, Jade, that leaves a very tough answer for you to fill in the gap. You don't have to know, but do you have any thoughts?
Yeah, I agree. I think kind of how AI got here could be influencing that, and also how people still speak about it today, whether it's a source that can be trusted and whether like schools or companies are encouraging or discouraging their employees or students to use this as a trusted source.
Yeah, and I think we might, I don't want to take us off topic, but I know that historically, when YouGov has done research into other online media, like maybe social media attitudes, I think that the US has been more cynical than other markets, especially maybe more emerging markets that kind of associate those technologies with the internet itself. So it could just be a carryover from a earlier generation of the internet. And I would also add, Cliff, I don't want to out you, but if anyone went to a chat or went to LinkedIn and saw, they could look it up. You're not based in America, so you're based in Canada. Is that, outside perspective looking in? Is there anything?
Yeah, it's the least outside you could be, I think. But yeah, it is. I mean, even Canada is not quite so AI negative as the US, although we're pretty close in a lot of metrics. Yeah, I don't know, guys. Why do you hate AI so much? Do you know something we don't? Or is it that everyone else in the world still thinks it's really cool to be American and they so associate AI with America, but Americans are kind of tired of it. So I don't know.
I'm not gonna take that bait. All right, Jade, what are we seeing here?
Yeah, so we asked our respondents, how much do you trust information from each of the following sources? And Maps is number one at 76%, which makes sense. I mean, maybe traffic delays are wrong, but I feel like most of the time you either get there or you don't. And then we're also seeing search engines as the second most trusted source at 70%. AI assistants rank near the bottom of the list, but they are just ahead of social media platforms. And then another interesting takeaway is that while only 28% of online searchers trust information from AI assistants, that rises to around 49% among those who actually use them.
And seeing like even among, the 49% is still quite a bit lower than just your 70% search engine there.
Yeah, but that could also be people who maybe want to like verify sources.
And then
I just want to say I don't trust Maps that much. They've lied to me a lot. I've wound up in a lot of places that didn't exist, and they've not mentioned a lot of places that they should have mentioned when I'm searching for food open near me. So there's reason to be skeptical even of Maps.
Did you drive your car into a lake?
No, I never. I don't have a car.
The Office, popular U.S. television program based off of the.
I thought that one was British.
It was British, but then we're really taking the U.S. focus here. So next one, and I know you alluded to this earlier, Cliff and Jade. I guess what are you seeing here? Obviously, a huge purple bar there at the bottom.
Yeah, so I would say that is our biggest takeaway here is that half of non-AI searchers say that nothing would increase their trust in AI answers. So people who don't use AI just don't trust it, and there's not much that would make them trust it. But among those who do use AI searchers, like clear links to sources, answering from official sources, or comparing side-by-side sources are the top 3 ways that we could increase trust.
So and I want to add one thing to this slide. All of these trust signals, they have low numbers. So clear links to sources, only 16%. But that's not like 16% say that would improve their trust. That's 16% saying that would most improve their trust. So if you add all of them together, that's the percentage of people who feel their trust could be improved by one or other of these signals, right? It's only the giant 49%, none of these, that kind of stands out as, look, we don't use it and we don't trust it, and nothing you can do will make us trust it.
But that also means that 30 to 40% of those non-users, and I say 30 to 40 because we also don't know there, would be more willing to trust it given some of these possible options.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
And then we've got 2 quick slides on AI versus non-AI users that we've already kind of established this group here. And then we'll get into questions. We're seeing a lot come in, so we'll do kind of a rapid round. But just real quick, Cliff, what do we?
Yeah, I'll run through these because I've kind of mentioned this stuff already. This is the are you comfortable with personalization if they use your data to do it? And again, huge split between AI searchers and non-AI searchers. Among AI searchers, people who already use it, 15% trust it. 31% say I trust it if I can turn it off. I don't want it snooping around in my personal data if I can't control it. Whereas non-AI searchers, the huge chunk, 68%, just say, nope, not comfortable. And so we can go on to the next slide because this one appears there too. And this is really just a summary of the differences between those 2 groups, the people who've tried it and the people who haven't, and big differences, right? If you've tried it, you're more likely to improve. If you haven't tried it, you are more likely to increase your use. If you haven't tried it, you're like, I'm not going to. Only 4% say they'll use it more. Do you trust it? 49% isn't great, but it's a lot better than 6. And similarly, persuadable by trust signals. 82% of AI searchers pick at least one signal that would improve their trust in AI, whereas only 36% of non-AI searchers could be persuaded. And again, the personalization variable from last slide. 28% of people, that's not great, of AI searchers are just not comfortable with it, but that's dwarfed by the 68% of non-AI searchers who are not comfortable. But, you know, maybe they'll come around, and if they don't, then we don't have to worry too much about what we put in the AI assistants because they won't trust them anyway. So that wraps our slides now, and then maybe we'll get to some questions, unless you guys want to have any closing thoughts on the report.
No, I mean, I'll just say really quick though that I probably should have said this up front, but all the slides will be sent out to anyone who registered for the webinar. So if you're on Zoom right now, you will receive an email tomorrow with all the slides, a bit more analysis. So you'll get that. No need to screenshot. You can take notes, obviously. I probably should have said that earlier. You know, when you write it down by hand, you remember it better. Anyway, yeah, we'll get all those slides over. So I'll get to some questions that have come in, and unless Jade, there was anything you wanted to kind of say on that.
No, let's get to the questions.
All right. Let's see. This one came from Brandon. When information is gathered on AI use, I've been skeptical on rates as often AI is forced on us. And the first place to start for me, I'll click on the AI so I can get actual answers with accurate sources. What are your thoughts on that as AI companies keep touting how much their products are being used? So I think the question is kind of something that maybe you had covered a bit on the journey of like, do people click the sources?
So the question is, it's forced. This sounds like it's forced on us by Google because now the top half of the screen is their AI answer. And yes, very well, maybe. So if you don't like it, you'll have to scroll down.
Okay. Another one from Hanya, which is, why is video so low across the specific use cases if it's the second highest ranked channel? So I can go back to that slide. I think it was early on. Jade, you might have presented that one. So this was the highest ranked channel. And then the next slide was video for specific use cases. So I think one was like, do you use it ever? And then this one might be, you know, is this the first place you use it?
Yeah, so the slide before is showing that 34% of online searchers have looked for information or answers in the past 30 days. And then here it's like the fourth column. So it's like, you know, you see 34%, but then is it their first place that they start? Not necessarily. Or this.
Yeah, I mean, maybe that's just because people search elsewhere and then they end up on video because a video is served to them. So
I mean, it could be, and it's likely that we have a incomplete list of tasks. So when we generated these answer options, we have a limited number we can ask, and a lot of them were motivated by the implicit comparison between AI search and search engines. So if I wanted to capture all the uses of video, I might have also put like finding CoComelon to quiet my toddlers, you know, just entertainment while I'm eating, stuff like that, which may fall into entertainment ideas, but might not have fallen in perfectly to the other options we did offer.
We got a few questions that were kind of, is there any information on apps that are most prevalent among each age group? So like Grok or ChatGPT, Claude, you know, favorite AI model across the countries. We don't have that in the survey, but we do have an AI index where we track all the brands and, you know, basically trends over time, how they deal with. And I think on the YouGov website, there's a bit of public information in the ratings. So we have like a search bar on the website. I would just search Grok or search what you want to learn about, and you can get a very, very small preview of kind of the full depth of data there. Let's see, how do you differentiate between a true AI search versus someone using the AI mode within a search engine?
We don't.
Yeah, we didn't, but we could. We didn't for this one. Let's see, Anne asked, the market analysis is interesting to see international versus the US. Do you look into how willing searchers are to click on ads within searches? Wondering if internationally people are more willing to click on ads due to their higher use of AI. So I think I'll just go back to the slide that probably is referring to.
We didn't ask specifically about ad clicking behavior on this, but we do have information on whether they click through more on links in general.
did you ask anything that would help understand if the U.S.'s low trust in AI is because people think the information might be trying to influence them when they don't want to be influenced, or that it might be inaccurate / wrong? So, why don't they use it or trust it?
Okay, so Brian, you pointed me towards that article from the B2C journalism team, I think, or I can't remember who wrote it, but it was about like trust. It was another trust in AI piece published by YouGov, and had some information on this kind of thing.
Yeah, I believe so. I think I know we've done tons of UI, AI trusts, and I think we did there's Salesforce did a survey with us that also looked at kind of that. So I don't know which one it was of the two.
Yeah, I think it was the YouGov one. Anyway, a lot of the reasons, insofar as I remember, but like Google our content if you really want to be sure. Yeah, people do not trust it. There are fears of manipulation, and we don't, though. While I'm sure we've investigated into the reasons why people don't trust it to some extent. We don't have that necessarily for every country. So you can find out why Americans don't trust it, but not necessarily how that varies under all these markets, because we didn't ask those in this particular instrument.
I have one for Jade, or at least this is related to one of the slides that you presented, which is, would you say millennials are more interested in looking for information from all sources compared to others?
Yeah, so millennials are more likely to use, I think another one that stood out was social media platforms, but that could also just be them looking for information, like cross-referencing sources versus just sticking to one. So yeah, they do appear across the board to be more likely to look for information across a variety of sources.
I think that answers that one. Next one from Jim. I think the answer to this is we don't, but I'll ask it, and Cliff, you can clarify. Do you have any info on how traditional SEO performs on AI search compared to traditional search platforms, i.e. Google, Yahoo? I've heard stories of companies who have mastered SEO in traditional, but were completely lost in AI search, and curious how that impacts trust of AI platforms.
So they are different. We don't have anything from the survey, but I know I've heard stuff from people investigating in our company, how we're doing on SEO and AI search, and it can be different. I'm not sure how on the user side that would necessarily influence trust that much, unless it's that as a user, I already trust search engines. And so if AI is giving me different sources, I won't trust it. But I'm not fully sure I understand the concern. But you're right, Brian, that we don't have the answers in this particular survey.
It's always fun to hear that I'm right, even if what I'm right about is that's probably not the ideal answer.
You're right. I don't know. Again.
Okay, let's see. Is this data? This is a question from Meg about which platforms consumers go to first when completing different tasks, consistent with observed behavior at the browser level. Thinking about how spotty respondent recall can be. So, kind of more of a methodology, are surveys legitimate type of question. Kind of fundamental to the whole presentation, if you think about it.
It's fundamental to more than this presentation, Brian. It's fundamental to the whole enterprise of consumer research, I guess. So the question is, do we have third-party data, data from the actual browser behavior?
Or, zero-party, like YouGov does have behavioral, which people opt into sharing the data. So I don't think we reference that for this study.
No.
But valid question. I think, worth interpreting this data through the lens of these are opt-in online surveys that people are filling out. We have a lot of fraud checks in place to make sure that it's not AI agents filling them out, and then do some analysis afterward. But that is something that, that is how the data was collected.
There are places where people's answers do not regularly correspond to a reality that appears to exist in the world. So that is a concern. If you can get the other data, definitely cross-check.
Okay, another one from Meg, or it could be a different Meg, so I don't want to assume. What connection do you see between countries with GDPR or similar privacy policies and levels of trust in AI?
Is that a me or is that a Jade? Who had the map one?
I think you had the map one, but
Okay.
Jade, well, feel free to chime in if you have the answer on that.
Yeah, I'll let Cliff start with that one.
So I guess we're talking about like a lot of the European markets who have the GDPR and the regulations. They trust AI more than the US does. So, but so does everyone. I don't know where all of those regulations apply, so I can't say for sure. But we know that the US has the lowest trust.
And yeah, I mean, like Canada also has stricter online laws than the US, and it's quite a bit higher and very close proximity wise, but not necessarily the reason why.
I mean, I think it would be like, I mean, obviously, Asia is not in Europe, so they wouldn't have the same regulations. I don't think that, I would love it if these regulations were resulted in higher trust, and they may do in those particular circumstances, but it may be that relatively low trust sometimes results in regulation unless you have a very powerful anti-regulation ideology and lobby in place.
Okay, just heard a motorcycle. So it's a little distracting. You weren't saying I was right, so I was like, "Oh, is that a motorcycle?" Okay, so we'll do one more question because I know we kind of said we'd stop at 45 and we're over a little bit. Maybe two more questions. So the first one is it possible to account for actual preference between AI-assisted new queries versus standard queries and behaviors that are semi-forced by the UI? Basically, it's a pain to get past the AI assist to do a regular or traditional search. So that's kind of going back to like Google versus, ChatGPT versus Claude.
Yeah, the more I think about the survey, the more I want to do a follow-up survey that digs specifically into the AI functionality within search engines like Google. But
well, you're here in front of a group of your friends and loved ones, so you've made a vow. And now
somebody please commission that study. Yeah.
And then last question, this is a follow-up. I'd be curious to understand the size of the AI searcher audience and frequent AI searcher audiences in the US. Are those audiences a larger share of the total population in the US versus markets like the UK, Canada, Australia?
Lower.
Started succinctly, ended succinctly. We can find that specific information follow-up, but yeah, that's the answer is lower. Cool. Well, we'll conclude. I think any closing thoughts, Jade, as our resident frequent AI user?
Yeah, I'm interested to see how this evolves over time. And like Cliff said, maybe a follow-up study will be in place, but it'll be interesting to see with new policies and regulations and how AI adoption evolves.
I know that there seems to be bipartisan support, something that is rare in the US, for some type of oversight into AI, which that was some research that the B2C, the kind of politics team has done. And then Cliff, take us home or close us out.
Yeah, so all of the research I've done anyway about AI in the US says that a lot of people really don't like it. But all signs point to you're going to get it anyway. So I'm hoping that the people who do adopt it find some use for it. And it looks like everyone else in the world is going a little faster on it anyway. So
cool.
It would
all right.
Stop.
Well, we'll have the slides out to everybody tomorrow, and on hand if any questions, if you want to reach out directly, or we'll just send the question our way, whether it's through the website or email. We'll get it to the right person. Thanks, and have a good rest of your day, everyone.
Thanks, everybody.
All right. Thanks, everyone. Bye.